I call Ria Bond.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm pleased to rise on behalf of New Zealand First and take this call for the third reading of the Construction Contracts Amendment Bill. Mr Speaker, New Zealanders do not and cannot afford to have another Mainsdale collapse. Collapses of companies that shocked this nation and the severity of these collapses. The biggest losers here were in fact the subbies, the plasterers, the painters, the bricklayers, the drain layers, the plumbers and the electricians. In 2013, we saw that this actually affected over 486 workers and indeed caused shockwaves through the subbies and in the industries. This bill will ensure there is an appropriate market-driven dispute service. All parties need a clear route to an appropriate market-driven resolution process. Parties involved can be assured of a faster, more efficient, more effective, more cost-effective process without additional compliance costs. Mr Speaker, New Zealand First supported this bill to the Select Committee process and to get it to its second reading. With the additions of the Minister's Supplementary Order Paper 106, amending provisions in the Construction Contracts Act 2002, the Principal Act for retentions, that is money withheld by one party to a construction contract from money payable to another party to the contract as security for the performance of obligations under the contract to be held in trust. Retention has been an issue, and this was commented on by the Commerce Committee. I quoted in the second reading surrounding this comment, and I'll do it again today. We were concerned to hear that many head contractors may be misusing retentions as working capital, delaying payment or holding retention amounts disproportionate to the contract prices. This behaviour undermines the sector's growth and productivity. While it is outside the scope of this bill, we are encouraged to hear the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment is giving priority to addressing these issues. We urge the Ministry to continue to work with industry players and look forward to policy solutions in legislation in early 2014. I also commented on the debate pack prepared by Parliamentary Services Library, specifically the legal commentary, which again I will quote. It has been long established practice in New Zealand and internationally for retentions to be held under construction contracts to ensure that if there are defective works, the head contractor or principal is able to recover the costs of fixing these defects. In the wake of the Mainsdale collapse, where subcontractors' retentions were unsecured debts in Mainsdale's liquidation, amendments were seen as necessary to protect payment of retentions to subcontractors and head contractors. Again, Mr Speaker, I'll say it again. What these two commentaries told me is that the biggest losers were again the subbies, the plasterers, the painters, the bricklayers, the drain layers, the plumbers and the electricians. Where had their protection been over the last 2 years? It is the subbies who have been shafted and left out of pocket, all because developers and contractors withheld the retention money and moved it off to other projects. This placed even further risk on that money because they actually turned around and used it as working capital. As I mentioned earlier, the millions of dollars lost in the collapse of Mainsdale and the subcontractors having no legal protection whatsoever, well, Mr Speaker, that kind of sucked for them. We have seen with the Canterbury rebuild that homeowners have had two options available to them. One, to go through the earthquake commissions and use the government contractors, or two, to opt out, do their own research and select a private contractor or company. Mr Speaker, there are, however, areas in this bill that still do not address some issues, and I can see these will cause some problems in the future, such as this bill does not address the substandard work that has been carried out, In fact, it has left some homeowners now unable to seek a remedy for the contractors or companies, because they have disappeared. They have been struck off the New Zealand Companies Register, but then the next day, like a pop-up shop, they come along again as a new company with a new name, open for business, subjecting more homeowners to be left with no apparent way to take legal action, because not only the contractors but also the companies have avoided responsibility. I, for one, will be watching for this, and I hope that future amendments to the Construction Contracts Amendment Bill will take place over time. I recognise it has taken over 2 years since this bill was first read in June 2013. And, Mr Speaker, I know that all good things take time. Mr Speaker, New Zealand First supports this bill.
I call the Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, not all good things take time, because I won't take much on this one.